What major global infrastructure got hacked this year? Joy, this is
Well,
where
it
it
was
gets
last year
worse.
now.
Okay. What major global infrastructure got hacked last year, 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the alarming question that you follow it up with. What do governments have to say about it? Governments, plural?
Yep.
Plural? Who is the Salt Typhoon group? I don't know. I haven't even heard of that. We got two questions right in a row that I haven't even heard of. You ready for that? Our listeners are going to be loving these new terms. What is SS7?
Yes, we
I'm
always got to
excited.
throw in, a new geek acronym every once in a while.
Ah, nice. Okay. All right. Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. I'm Nick, and this is Super Simple Security Principles. Listen each week and learn how to think, not what to think. This is episode 49. Our phone system hacked? Crap.
Yeah. Well, and you know what this episode means, Nick? We talked about
Dude,
this earlier, but
we
yeah.
did. Holy smokes. Is this it? This is our second year.
Yep, this is officially, not the calendar year, but in terms of podcast recording, this will be our second year done a full 52 weeks worth of episodes. So,
Woohoo.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny, you see the stats about how many podcasts don't even make it past, certain numbers. Anyway, it's a pretty cool milestone. And I'm not feeling weary. I'm ready to keep on rolling for lots more. So,
Right? I love it. I love
how
it.
about you?
Dude, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. Like we were talking about this earlier. We'll go off the cuff and sidetrack. We were talking about this earlier. Dude, I'm digging what we're laying down. I am not a computer geek for the record, like definitely not. But like I'm really excited. I'm pumped, like I genuinely get pumped about this. Now, like we're at it again, and another entity got hacked, you know.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
should be more reasons to level up your security. If you haven't already, this is year two. This is going to be Nick's call to action. Take this seriously. Like, start leveling up your security. We make it super simple, baby steps. Like, you don't have to change overnight. One good habit. Like, start simple.
yep. Thank you. Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nick's words of wisdoms.
Yeah. Well, and with this episode, we've talked a lot about email, right? Big system that affects us all daily.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the first time, or we've really had an episode where now we're going to talk about another system, our phone system. It's even older than email, right?
Right.
And it also has some serious security deficiencies.
All
And
right.
we're going to talk about one specific part of it, and it's called SS7.
Okay.
And we'll get into in a little bit more in a minute what that stands for and just a brief history. And the only reason I even bring in that geek term is just because when you're reading, if you listen to the news at all and hear this, like sometimes that term is thrown out, and I feel like you get a lot better understanding if you just have a very quick explanation, understanding of what that is. It will not be deep technical,
Okay. Okay. Well, it's going to be
but
learning opportunity for me too. So I'll make you go
yeah.
slow.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, and the reason, so we'll start with the announcement, right? And obviously, I said this year then because I was thinking about it and making my notes in 2024. The year rolled over without me noticing. But um, the governments that were involved, it was of course our United States government, but Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and they kind of made a joint announcement about this group that Microsoft dubbed. It's not self-named Salt Typhoon, but they always come up with these weird names. So they have ways to refer to these different hacking groups,
Okay.
and so they gave it Salt Typhoon. No explanation as far as I'm aware, but anyway. Um, they've hacked. It started at 4 and then went up to 8. Now they know of at least 9 major telecommunication companies in the United States, including Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen Technologies.
Oh,
Yeah, like it's big. Um, they've also, and I'm going to read this from the thing. They've also attacked hotels, engineering companies, and law firms in Brazil, South Africa, Canada, Israel, France, Guatemala, Lithuania, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Thailand, and the United Kingdom.
oh my goodness.
So, yeah, the
Wow.
investigation is ongoing, and there's a lot of details we don't know. Um, it appears the group has been active since at least 2019, and yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I'm like, we're not gonna do a full news coverage here, but I will include a couple links, like if you're interested in more details, and you can follow along because it's ongoing. There's going to be, I mean, there's been many updates, more press releases from the government, news articles. Anyway, lots of stuff. Security researchers weighing in, all sorts of things. So, but my focus is just to teach the few things that I think are important kind of takeaways from this event, that and for people to
Yeah.
understand when they are reading these news articles, then, and of course give a few steps that you can take to keep yourself safe.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. So phones are no longer as safe as we thought they were. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, and right, they've been doing a lot of things, but the focus for this attack and what I want to talk about is just really their compromise of the phone system,
Let's
not
hear it.
those other things. It was just kind of, yeah. So let's start with SS7. It
Yeah.
stands for Signaling System Number 7, because they had some other versions as well. There was like a number 5 and stuff.
So we just finally
Um,
rested on 7.
yeah. Well, actually, there are even some later versions. I don't know what the names of them are, but it's one that, because of legacy reasons and like um, and working with networks all around the globe, and just because things go slowly, even though there are newer versions essentially of it, we're still dependent on it in a lot of ways, um, and circumstances, that a bunch of technical details. The main thing is it its security flaws, practically speaking, affect us still, and that's the main thing to understand. And its roots go back to the 1970s.
Okay. So this SS7
Yeah.
security flaws are still affecting us. It's not like got hacked and done. They're still affecting us.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's the thing. The SS7 is sort of a language that helps phone networks all over the world, because we got our networks in America, right? But then you can call people in other countries, right?
Right. Yep. Yep.
And if you have roaming, or global roaming, you can go and make calls, and there's inter communications between these networks all around the globe, right?
Right. Right.
And so SS7 is one of the main, like, languages, protocols that helps, or a set of protocols really, but that helps them communicate, these
Okay.
different
Okay.
networks. That's what it is. It's in
Okay.
many ways it's like the internet, right? It's this global network that helps us communicate, and
Right.
it predates the internet, of course. But and yeah, just like the internet, there are a lot of security flaws. Some of them have been fixed, but some have been ignored.
Okay.
Right? And
Right.
my hope is that the events, this hack will raise attention and maybe spur some more fixes. but we'll see. Um, yeah, and that's really all I want to say about SS7.
Okay.
But I will link. There's a really cool video from on YouTube that I'll link as well. That gives it's not super technical. It's pretty approachable, but very
Okay.
interesting. I thought, and gives a little more of the history and a little bit. Yeah, it's so. What we're going to focus on here, though, is the three major flaws or risks associated with SS7 that are um, still in existence today,
Okay.
and the reason why this Salt Typhoon group. By the way, and I don't think I mentioned this, but the Salt Typhoon group is a group sponsored by the National Republic of China, the Chinese government.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
So at least I don't know if they're 100% of that, but that's certainly what their tentative conclusion was. So
Okay.
okay, so risk one is tracking. Tracking your location, meaning, right?
Wait. Really?
Yeah, yeah. So what, like, so this group or whoever, so SS7 does not protect your location very well. That's basically what it comes down to, right?
Great.
Now, as you might imagine, with a communications network, especially with roaming and communicating with other networks, I mean, it's kind of inherent in the design. There's locality to it. You got to know the
Right.
locations, right?
Right. I just thought
But
I would have been a little better protected, maybe.
yeah, well, unfortunately, it was designed without today's knowledge of security and
Hmm.
all the many ways that it would be hacked. It's just kind of they fixed little ones as problems came up. And like I said, some, even though they've been known, like there was a big one as I was researching it that has been known since like 2014. And, it, you know, there were a bunch that got revealed that time and some got fixed and some didn't.
2014 and we still haven't fixed everything?
Yeah. 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 Well, and it's like, and I'm going to speculate on this a little bit more later, but I'll just say right now, it's like most things in security, Nick. Until you get bit hard with it, mostly things don't get fixed.
Right.
Very, very few exceptions. Something really bad has to happen before people are convinced it's worth the effort. So, yeah.
Joy.
Yeah. And so once basically they hack into the SS7 system, once they're kind of inside that network, then there are a number of ways they can basically get your location and track you. And unfortunately, as far as I can determine, my understanding, there's really nothing that as individuals we can do to prevent this if we're connected to the phone system. And most of us need to be connected to that phone system most of the time.
Right.
Technically you could turn off your cell connection and, just talk over the internet, and then that the other kind of tracking wouldn't be available, but that's just not very realistic for most of us most of the time. We still want to
Right.
use the
Use our
old
phones.
system. Yeah.
Right.
So, we might be able to influence the government or telecommunications companies, but it's really up to them to actually do the fixing. As far as I know, as far as I can understand. So, yeah, so that's the bummer one. The next two, there's at least a little bit we can do about, but it's not really too great overall. But
Great.
so
So I
yeah,
can't
sorry.
tell Verizon, get with the program.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can voice concerns with them, right? Because they are certainly closer to being in a position of doing something. But again, I suspect it'd be kind of like we were talking about with passkeys and the rules for transferring passkeys in the last episode, where it's going to, because there's all these networks and all these big players, in order for things to really change, I suspect, and I'm not super informed about the whole system, but it would take, everybody agreeing to, okay, here's the ways we're going to upgrade it. Here's what we're going to do, because all the things have to play nice together going forward.
Yeah.
So they have to have some agreed upon rules in order to really upgrade and make progress. And that's hard,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
on a global scale, especially. So there's a lot of reasons why progress moves slowly there. But so the second thing anyway is spying on our text messages. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you're in the SSN system, the government, or ours or otherwise, can spy on our messages. They can intercept them and read them and pass them along without you ever knowing.
So this is legit. Like, this isn't just maybe the government could do this. This is the government can
Yeah.
and probably does. Like let's be honest. If they can, they do.
I'll say I'm avoiding speculating too much on that, how much it happens, when it happens, who it does. But the government clearly has acknowledged it to some degree at this point, because they're talking about, they have some recommendations to, the companies and things, and they're talking about encrypted messaging, right? Because they know that's part of the solution. Yeah. So,
Okay.
there's the privacy implications, right? We don't want people to read our messages, our government or the
Right.
Chinese government.
Right.
But the other thing with text messages is that we use text messages often for two-factor authentication,
Right.
which we've talked a lot about. And um, unfortunately, we often don't have a choice, because there are a lot of companies, that I have an account with, that the only option that they even offer is a text message two-factor authentication.
Right.
So that's one where, we can bug them. We can say, hey, please try to do some more. I don't know how much influence we'll have individually and whatever, but maybe this hack will inspire some companies to offer more secure two-factor authentication choices.
Authentication. Right.
I don't know. I expect it'll come slowly, but anyway, that's the other thing to keep in mind. If you do have the option of something else, I definitely suggest anything other than a text message. So,
Makes sense.
risk number 3, you might be able to guess this one, but it's listening in on your voice calls.
That's what I was afraid of. I was like, let's just go for the trifecta. Like, let's just take away all privacy from phones whatsoever. Like, we're reading your messages, we're listening to your phone calls, and we're tracking you. Great.
Yep. And without you knowing it. That's one of the things. Like, there's another attack that we're actually going to cover in the next episode.
Okay.
Where called SIM swapping, where you kind of lose access to your phone, your phone calls and your text messages intercepted, but your phone stops working, and so you may not know it immediately, but it won't just happen, silent. Like, there is some indication that something went wrong. Your phone stops working, and so this is just so much worse, because it could be happening without you knowing. So,
great.
Yeah. So again, and the solution both to number 2, there's the two-factor authentication part we talked about, but in terms of the privacy for your text messages and your voice calls, it means you need to have an alternative. And as you know, my preferred alternative is Signal. That's my favorite secure communications app, and we talked about that in episode 20. And I use that every day for text messaging and video and voice calls, actually.
I can attest to this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of my family members have switched to it too. So it's slowly spreading. And actually, I have a lot of business associates, a lot of friends, neighbors. Like, it's getting some serious snowball growth, it feels like. So I'm really, really happy about that. I do make and receive plenty of regular unencrypted, SS7 phone calls and text messages too.
Right.
So I'm not recommending like, oh, everybody, nope, can't ever do that again. Yeah, we're far from that. But what my recommendation is that you have a secure option, Signal, or if some people really like WhatsApp, that's pretty good. But that you use regularly, and you can rely on, if and when whatever events you need. If you're just feeling like you want more security on privacy on a particular call or anything, and part of it is I want to just kind of help slowly shift the culture away from insecure and privacy poor methods of communication.
I would imagine, especially using these secure methods, if you have anything sensitive to share. Like there are times to where I get certain photos and things like that of documentation sent to me. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's a good
why
example.
why would you send this to me via text?
Yeah,
Like
or
find a
worse,
secure,
email.
yeah, or worse, email. Like find a secure way of sending it. So I like that. That's something we can do is we can start implementing, hey, look, if it's something sensitive, find a secure way of sending it. You know?
Yeah, yeah, no, and
And
that's a really good example.
and clearly we've pointed out that text, voicing, and tracking are being spied on.
Yeah.
That's
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and so now I want to kind of not backpedal, but just put it in perspective, right?
okay.
So what are the impacts of this, to you, to me, to our listeners? Because I don't want to, I'm not into the fear, mongering.
Right.
I do
Right.
not want to inspire unwarranted panic. In fact, just the opposite. I want to make sure you're aware of things that you should be aware of, so you're not blissfully ignorant.
Right.
But I want you to. The phrase I like is being confidently aware.
Right. Confidently aware. I like that.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of blissfully ignorant, right? That's the what I shoot for. So, and I will say definitely that for the moment, most of us likely will see no direct effect, at least on our daily lives, other than if we're reading the news about it or whatever. But because this sort of spying, even though all those things are absolutely possible, it takes effort, and it still takes targeted effort. Like it's not just trivial to spam it out and listen to everybody all the time and record everything all the time, like just trivially. It takes effort, and so key individuals still are primarily going to be targeted for specific purposes. Government officials, as you might imagine, corporate executives, other high profile, high value targets are going to be the biggest ones that need to be concerned about this.
Yeah.
But that being said, I still think also it's just a good reminder for us to take a bit of action and keep in mind, like we talked about earlier, let's not necessarily just wait for something really bad to happen to us before we decide that it's a
Right.
priority, right?
Right.
That's part of my mentality. And then the other question that I want to address is a little bit more that we brought up earlier is you asked like why hasn't more been done to fix the problems in SS7?
Right.
And I mentioned earlier just the inertia, just a lot of work, all those things, right? But I want to add one more reason, and because there's been a lot of conversations in the last like last year really about encrypted communication, and specifically around child pornography being messaged and then wanting to crack down on that, and like a lot of really bad stuff, and it's stuff that's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with you. I
100%.
absolutely
Yeah.
want to stop all that crap,
Right.
you know
Absolutely.
And so, but what the government has said as a result of this is essentially they want the ability to spy on us because they want to be able to use it to stop the terrorists, the bad guys, the criminals, all these things. And while I'm in full agreement with stopping all the bad stuff, the lesson that they hopefully are seeing from this is unfortunately, you can't have it both ways. It just doesn't work, technically speaking. You have to solve it with other solutions, and that's a whole other topic. But it boils down to, if communication can be spied on, if there's back doors or security holes in our phone system, then anybody can use it and is going to. It's
Right.
not just the
Clearly,
government.
they've been hacked. Like,
Yeah, exactly. This is the positive. This is the proof, right, to them that,
right.
and like I said, in the official announcements, they are actually talking about recommending encrypted communications, which is kind of funny if you kind of listen to see all the messaging worldwide this last year and the debates about it, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, all right, well, we're maybe starting to realize why it's not just as simple as that, because this is what happens. So
Yeah.
so then my final thought before we get to our call to action segment is, I was thinking, just kind of a interesting idea, as individuals, like, what kind of impact could we have on this thing? And I was like, what if we really we're all like really switching, and the volume of unencrypted text messages just went way, way, way down, right? Now,
Right.
I don't have any delusions about actually making this happen or whatever, but in theory, that is something that could happen, and I think probably will happen over time. I have no predictions about how long that would take, but if once the volume of unencrypted text messages gets low enough, they would just die off naturally, because it wouldn't be worth supporting that
Wouldn't be
infrastructure
worth spying
anymore.
on the few percentage. Yeah.
Well, not only that, right? The spying, that's true as well, but just even like, I think the ability to send them ultimately, and again, I mean, recognize this is
Would
years out, but it would go away, right?
you're thinking it would completely go away? All right. All right. Cool.
Um, I mean, I would think so eventually. It's a lofty goal, and but
We're still
this is,
using email.
well, I know exactly. Yeah, I'm not delusional about this. I also feel like, I mean, it's the war I'm fighting.
Yeah.
One of the wars that I've decided to participate in, and so I'm going to be hopeful and work towards these objectives, even while trying to be realistic about when we might be able to accomplish them. If that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
a it's a battle worth fighting, to me at least. Anyway, regardless of prospects.
This is a
So
battle for fighting for me as well. Like, this is just validation to what I've been saying for years.
yeah,
It's so, look, you think your phone's secure, it's not. You know?
yep,
And if you have something that's secure, find a secure way of doing it. The cool thing is we've highlighted a couple of ways already. Signal, outstanding. Like, this is awesome. Find a platform that's got some encryption to it. Like, yeah,
yep,
I dig it. I dig it. Get used to using it.
yep,
So, have we reached that point? Are we to the
yeah,
call to action? What's our call to
yep.
action, buddy?
So, of course, the obvious one is install the Signal app. We'll have a link for that. But I know some people already do, so I wanted to give kind of a bonus one. If you already have Signal, then invite a friend or family member to install it as well. I've been slowly doing this, and I've been pretty pleased. People are pretty willing to get on it, and then, because the more people you have on there, the more you have people to talk to, the more you'll use it. They'll start, you know, spreading it as well, and it'll just kind of ripple. And anyway, so if you're already using it, ask somebody else to as well.
Outstanding. I love it.
Yeah. And so then the last thing I want to mention, we kind of this new segment. We usually have had call to action at the end, but I'm wanting to start introducing next episode a lot more often.
Yeah. We gonna
Yeah,
tease them?
just
Little
yeah, give
teaser.
something to look forward to,
What's
Yeah,
coming up?
so the next episode we're going to be talking about phone security again. But some different attacks, the SIM swapping, and related but slightly different is a port out attack. Because
I've
there
heard
are
of
some,
those actually.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
those are the ones that have gotten a lot of coverage increasingly. Um, and we had some on this one. There were some significant developments in 2024 on those fronts as well. But in this case, it wasn't big bad stuff. These are actually good developments.
Nice.
Because we have some new tools that I think were officially there was some legislation related to them. Was if I remember right, September of last year when they were fully made, were required to legally be available to us um, to protect yourself. So that's what we're going to go over is these new tools they're
There's your
really
teaser.
simple, help people get set up. Yep.
Cool. All right.
So
I love it, man. That was a
yeah,
good episode.
it's good stuff. Thanks.
Okay, that's our super simple show today. If you're not a member of the IHP Academy already, please come join us for free. Stop searching the whole internet for answers and never knowing who to trust. Ask us instead. We made it super simple to find us, and it only takes 2 minutes to sign up. Just visit helpmegetsafe.com. Enter your name and your email. You're in. You can also find the link in our show notes. Thank you for joining us and make it a great day. Bye-bye.